Hi everyone, my name is Perez. On this week's presentation, I'll be providing my response to Week 3's Legal Health Records case study. So the case study describes a director who is the custodian of a medical records having a great deal of difficulty responding to subpoena for patient records. The facility is in the midst of converting from paper-based to an electronic patient records. Some information is on paper, some information is scanned immediately following discharge, some information is automatically fed into the EHR system, and some information resides only within electronic systems. The process of finding and identifying the various parts of the patient record from the various sources is time-consuming, and there is concern about ensuring the same response each time a record is requested. An attorney requested a record, followed by an additional request. What he received from the organization the first time was substantially different from what he received the second time. When the attorney deposed the custodian, many questions were raised about how record requests were handled, daily operational processes including how the patient's legal health records was compiled in response to this subpoena, and if this was a true and complete record of the patient. So the question we asked after this case study was, what steps would the director take to ensure that responses to subpoenas consistently result in the true and complete health record of a patient? Some issues identified during the case study are: one, the difficulties the custodian is having responding to subpoenas for patient records. Two, there seems to be no directional guideline on how the conversion from paper-based record to EHR should go. Three, they're finding or identifying patient records has become very time-consuming. And then three, the inconsistencies in record forms provided to the attorney. So a few discussion questions here are: which historical patient information should be made available to patients during their visit after the transition? What are the best methods of converting this information to EHR? And what is the best way to ensure that the converted data and information is of sufficient quality, which pretty much is what the attorney is asking at this point. And also, lastly, how long should a paper record be available after conversion? And how long do paper records need to be kept after the transition to EHR? So step one. To begin with, the director must be aware of all the information source system, which is the administrative, the financial, and the clinical, that contribute to the record. Since all services, which is lab, pharmacy, radiology, patient admins, use different systems, the director must identify all the different ways the facility maintains its health records, know the content of the records, and how the records are retained. So step two, the director and his team needs to determine exactly what data or document constitute a legal document. After this is determined, the facility policy must reflect the changes, and conversion must be done in phases. For instance, multidisciplinary practices start converting from one specialty to another. Step 3. Since the facility is in the midst of transferring records, the director must determine which patient information should be made available when responding to subpoenas. So what this pretty much is saying is, if a subpoena should request, if there's a subpoena for a patient record, are we going to be giving them electronic records, or are we giving them the paper-based records? Once it's settled that we're going to be giving them electronic health records, it should stay consistent, and every record given to attorneys should be the electronic health records. So once all records have been converted, the director must advise staff members to only use paper versions as references. Additionally, reminders must be sent out to providers to prevent the creation of additional patient information on papers. Next, a record management software is required to determine record declaration and life cycle management of information, such as instant messages, photos, and emails received from outside organizations that is used for patient care. Step 5. When all of this is done, the director must retrain staff members on all information source system and what constitutes an LHR. Since record custodians primarily respond to subpoenas, they must be made to understand the established standards of record maintenance, content, and documentation. Knowing and understanding the established standards as well as the facility policy would help employees respond to the requests consistently. Lastly, the director must document the changes and the training provided for his personal documentation. These are a few references that I used, and this concludes my presentation. Thank you.